I was sitting in the audience the day Jessica Miller won Best Actress. She held the trophy, her smile polished clean of the shy, helpless girl who'd come to me 5 years ago. For this award, the person I owe the most is Jason Smith, my Mr. Jason. Her Mr. Jason wasn't me. Almost the moment she opened her mouth, everyone in the hall turned to me with a mix of pity and surprise. They all knew Jessica was where she was because I'd cleared the path for her. I gave a quiet laugh and started the applause. And the girl who had lived in my heart since I was 16 was, in the end, gone. The day she won Best Actress also happened to be her 29th birthday. Winning at 29 isn't exactly young fame, but Jessica came into the business late and didn't shoot her first film until 3 years ago. That film was one I built for her with my own hands. In 3 years, I walked Jessica, step by step, to the throne of box office queen. If I made a movie, she was the lead. Because of that, I crossed plenty of people. I didn't care. Staring at the woman on stage in a champagne gown under the spotlights, my mind drifted back to 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I was 27 and had already carved out a place in the industry, hailed as the most intuitive director of my generation. My name, a stamp of quality. No one knew I'd entered the business for one person, Jessica. So that rainy night when she showed up soaked on my doorstep, my face stayed calm, but inside the waves were breaking. I couldn't steady them. She was shivering from the cold, standing at the bottom step looking up at me. Rain slid down her neck and disappeared into her collar. Director Luke, I heard you're casting the female lead in your new film. I'm a newcomer, but I've been learning the craft. I've studied your movies a lot. Could you let me read for you? I didn't answer. I took off my coat and draped it over her shoulders. You don't need to audition. It's you. For one stunned beat, her face went blank, then a brilliant smile burst across it. It was like that blazing summer when she was 16. Standing in a drift of white doves in her sundress, the moment my quiet life veered. I had my reasons for saying yes. Jessica was the model for every heroine I'd ever written. I only shoot stories I've authored, and she was my best choice. For 3 years, I bled my nights dry, wringing out every drop of inspiration to set Jessica in front of this trophy. Before we came, she told me if she won, she had a surprise for me. She was smiling now, her face flawless on the big screen. She was born a star, beautiful enough, ruthless enough. Thank you to my fans for standing by me. It's because of you I can stand here. Her voice caught, tears glittering in her eyes. For a second, I almost felt like we were looking straight at each other. There's someone I must thank. Her words fused with the pounding in my chest. Everything else fell away. The noise, the people, looking right into my eyes. Her crimson lips formed the cruelest words. The person I want to thank is Jason. My Mr. Jason. Jason, an industry senior, a former best actor. At the corner of her mouth, I caught the curl of a mocking smile. The spine I just straightened collapsed with a crash. It wasn't me. The man she would thank, the one she would claim, wasn't me. The hall was huge, yet I felt like a clown, with nowhere to hide. Everyone's gaze fixed on me. For 3 years, they'd envied how I shielded Jessica. The resentment they'd nursed, now sharpened into ridicule. I looked at the photo on my phone of the girl in a white dress and smiled. Congratulations. I started the applause that rippled through the hall. Chased by the spotlight, Jason walked on stage, took Jessica's hand and lifted the trophy with her. He looked at her with a gentle smile. You deserve this. I could already imagine the words on Weibo tonight made for each other. Golden boy and girl, a power couple. None of it had anything to do with me. I figured Jessica no longer needed my protection. I stood, waited until all eyes were on the two of them, and turned to slip out the side door. The host's voice froze me mid-step. As everyone knows, every film our Jessica has starred in since her debut has been directed by Luke. Is there a story there? I turned back and met Jessica's eyes across the air. For 3 years, anyone who met me had poked around about us. I always laughed it off. She was a rising star. Dating rumors did nothing for her, least of all rumors about me. I've seen enough of how clickbait turns an actor and a director into raw material. Those words should never be pinned to Jessica. I thought she'd trot out a few polite lines like always. Instead, Something misfired and she followed the host's lead. The first time I met director Luke, he told me the heroine in his script was written for me. After our first collaboration, he came to me for every project. He's been like a mentor to me, so I never said no. Her tone was warm. I felt like I'd been dropped into an ice cellar, as if the girl who once gripped my hand and begged for help had never existed. Jason picked up where she left off. Jessica acts well and looks the part. Of course directors want her, but I still hope certain people won't keep using what they've done for her as leverage to threaten her again and again. He didn't bother to be polite, one step shy of accusing me outright of tying myself to Jessica for hype. Yet I paid her every cent she earned. And because she was unknown at first, I even topped up her first 2 films by 30%. In their mouths, it had become extortion dressed up as gratitude. I stood frozen, fists clenched, my heartbeat drumming faster and faster with rage. Yet on stage, Jessica still looked at me that way, proud, distant, almost contemptuous. What right did she have? I knew this wasn't the time or place to defend myself, so I turned and walked out. On Weibo, the livestream comments were already exploding. Jessica and Jason's fans, of course, stood firmly on their side, while a few more rational voices tried to defend me. But as a director, my fans couldn't compare to theirs. Before long, my page was flooded with hate. The gossip accounts were quick to jump in, twisting stories out of thin air. Some even said my films were nothing without Jessica. I forced down my anger and prepared to post the truth on Weibo. After all, I still had all our chat records saved. But before I could post it, Jessica called. Luke, about tonight I want you to stay silent. Why should I? Because if you don't, I'll tell the media you killed your brother. Her tone was icy, stripped of all emotion. It felt like an arrow piercing straight through my chest. I could feel the hot blood draining from me, that gaping hole in my heart letting in endless cold wind. And the one hurting me was the girl I'd loved since I was 16. Jessica, what gives you the right to do this to me? I closed my eyes, my voice trembling uncontrollably. But my weakness didn't stir an ounce of pity in her. Because you owe me. Owe her? I've never owed anyone in my life, except my brother. She hung up after that, leaving only the empty dial tone. I leaned my head against the window. My brother died when I was 13. We were twins. I was born with a heart defect, so my parents abandoned me at an orphanage. When I was 8, my brother stumbled upon me by chance, and we discovered who we were. From that day on, we met often. His presence filled the void of loneliness and pain. He told me that after I was abandoned, our parents fought constantly and soon divorced. He stayed with our mother, who later remarried. He was never happy in that home. On our 13th birthday, he promised to give me his gift from Mom. He said he'd already received enough gifts in his life. This one should be mine. But that day, I waited and waited. He never came. The city was buried in snow. I followed the route I remembered, and there, on a snow-covered street, I saw a shocking splash of red blood. My brother lay on the ground, a basketball rolling beside him. Later, our mother found me and kept me by her side, but she went mad after his death, often calling me by his name. I never stopped her. She divorced that man. And after my brother died, my heart condition was gone. He'd given me his heart. Before he died, he held my hand and said he was sorry for letting me suffer alone all those years. But he was the one who'd done right by me the most. After graduating middle school, I left home and started over somewhere new. That's where I met Jessica. She probably doesn't even remember me, a boy she ran into once on the street. But I remember her. I remember her spinning among a flock of white doves. Her bright sunlit smile. And the little daisy she placed beside me. Are you my fan? Don't be sad, okay? You got a flower from your idol's smile. Let me light up your world. Jessica had reached out, poked at the corner of my mouth, and lifted it into a smile. I just stared at her, dazed, as if I was really seeing the angel my brother used to talk about. Director Luke, what should we do about tonight? My assistant's voice yanked me out of the memory. I opened my eyes and looked at my dark phone screen. People always talk about a first love that never fades. Once, Jessica had been that for me. But now, she was nothing. I looked up at the moonlight hidden behind the clouds and hit send on the article. Jessica, you really don't know me at all. You don't understand that those old wounds stopped hurting a long time ago. How could they ever hold me back now? By the time I got home, Jessica had blown up my phone. When I didn't answer, she started spamming me. Luke, what do you mean by this? Luke Dawson, pick up the phone. Luke, please don't ignore me. I'm scared. Don't you love me anymore? Luke, didn't you say you'd always be my #1 fan? Her messages came one after another. I muted the chat, opened Weibo. My post had already climbed to #1 on the trending list. There was still plenty of her fans hurling insults, but thankfully a lot of reasonable comments too. So Jessica just wants it all, huh? Used him up and kicked him away. I'm worried about Jason's future now. You think Jason's any better? Our Luke was just played, that's all. Poor director Luke. Love makes people stupid. That one made me laugh. She was right. Love does make people stupid. But I was cured now. The doorbell rang. At this hour, there was only one person it could be. Jessica. I opened the door and found her standing there, furious. I almost found it funny. In the first 2 years after we reunited, she never once looked at me like this. In front of me, she'd always been gentle, kind, radiant, like the sun itself. When did that change? Probably when the rumors online started. She began to think I was holding her back, that I was controlling her too much, that I wasn't all that great after all. During our worst fight, she pointed right at my face and screamed. In the end, it was me who had to apologize and beg for her forgiveness. Luke, what the hell do you mean by this? Jessica shoved my shoulder. I leaned against the doorframe, unmoving, watching her coldly, a mocking smile tugging at my lips. What do I mean? Jessica, you smeared me, and I can't even defend myself. People deserve to know the truth. The truth? You're just trying to destroy me. You're upset because Jason and I went public, aren't you? Luke, I'm just your puppet. Everything you ever did for me was only because of times her asterisk. She screamed, her face twisted. But what she said left me confused. Asterisk? Her? Asterisk? Who was she talking about? When I didn't respond, Jessica seemed to take it as encouragement. She lifted her chin and sneered. I hit the mark, didn't I? Luke, you think I don't know? That girl in your photo album, the one in the white dress, she's your real love, isn't she? All the kindness and effort you gave me were just because I look like her. So I was just your stand-in. What year is it? And you're still playing this pathetic double trope? Luke, you make me sick. Her eyes shimmered with tears. The photo, shot against the light, didn't clearly show the girl's face. So Jessica thought it was someone else. I almost laughed. Because of this twisted misunderstanding, she was determined to destroy everything I had worked. For my reputation, my films, the world I'd built with so much effort, to her, none of it mattered. As expected, the first love kind of girl should only exist in memory. Jessica, let's just say I mistook you for someone else. I shut the door, letting her scream and curse outside. But that very night, a recording of our conversation leaked online. It was my fault for saying those things, but it's only because I was in pain. The person I trusted and admired saw me as nothing more than someone else's shadow. So it turned out everything had been Jessica's calculation. I had to admit she knew how to use public opinion as a weapon. In just a few hours, the hate calling her ungrateful flipped into sympathy for a poor girl who'd been someone's substitute. Even when people pointed out how much she'd gained from our relationship, others quickly defended her because of that fragile, wounded heart. She played so well. I ignored the storm brewing online. I turned off my phone and lay down. I was so tired. All I wanted was sleep. That night, I dreamt of my brother again. Though we shared the same face, no one ever confused us. Maybe because he always smiled. No matter how hard things got, no matter the pain, even facing death, he never flinched. He'd only smile, ruffle my hair, and say gently, Luke, live well, live a good life. In my dream, I saw the day we first met. I was sitting on a park bench, watching a happy family of 3 laughing in the distance, the cold wind blowing through my torn clothes. That's when my brother walked toward me. His eyes widened in surprise, but he crouched down in front of me without hesitation. After a long pause, he spoke his first words. What's your name? I think I'm your brother. From the first glance, he just knew. Later, I asked him why, and he said because I looked like an abandoned little animal, sitting there and big brothers are supposed to protect their younger ones. I woke with a jolt at dawn, my brother's dying face flashing through my mind, again and again. It took me a while to remember where I was. My phone was buzzing nonstop with calls and messages, most telling me to check Weibo. I opened WeChat. Jessica's pinned chat sat glaring at the top, her messages as disappointing as ever. Luke, you forced me into this. I, Jessica, will never be anyone's stand-in. Thinking back, the signs had always been there. 3 months ago, she joined a variety show, met Jason, and began drifting away. I'd wondered why, but growing up in an orphanage had made me reluctant to question people. Now I finally understood. She must have seen that photo in my album. She never asked, and I never told her. I thought the past was past, and as long as Jessica was with me now, that was enough. I was wrong. I told my assistant I'd hold a press conference in 3 days to put an end to this ridiculous farce once and for all. Most likely, it would also end my career. I needed rest anyway to take this heart my brother left me and see the world like he'd wished. But to my surprise, Jason called. He said he wanted to talk. I didn't see the point. Before all this, he'd just been another famous actor to me. But Jason was persistent, and I didn't want to waste more energy on him, so I agreed to meet. He chose a discreet private restaurant. When I arrived, he was already seated at the head of the table. Seeing me, Jason flashed the kind of polished, PR-trained smile I hated most in this industry. Sorry, too many reporters follow me around. I hope you don't mind this place, Director Luke? I shook my head. He was a big name. Not every restaurant could host him. What do you want, Jason? He crossed one leg over the other, leaning back, eyes narrowing slightly. I know, Director Luke, your so-called first love is Jessica. My hand trembled. Of all the possibilities I'd imagined before coming, that wasn't one of them. What are you trying to say? I dropped my casual tone and studied him. He wasn't some fresh-faced newcomer anymore. Time had carved composure into him, like an aged wine, refined, heavy with depth. But his eyes were dark pits that made you wary of falling in. Relax, Director Luke, he said. Jessica's a great talent. Pretty young. And most importantly, naive. He wasn't wrong. Under my protection these 3 years, Jessica had stayed untouched by the filth of the industry. Clean, pure, the kind of blank canvas a director could paint freely on. That's what made her luminous. Jason chuckled softly. That's why I chose her. A bad feeling rose in my chest. What exactly do you want? Director Luke, I'm not young anymore. You know how fast this business moves. There are plenty of people eyeing my spot. I don't need to name them. Using an actress to keep the audience's attention. Using romance to control part of the fan base, that's how this game works. But Jessica was too fixated. Her heart belonged to you. So I had to use a more extreme method to rip you out of her once and for all. Jason's tone was calm, but every word cut like a blade. I swallowed hard, my hands clenched into fists on my knees. So you're the one who made her misunderstand. Jason raised a brow, resting his chin on one hand. He didn't reply, but I already knew the answer. I stood, grabbed him by the collar, and yanked him out of his chair. I could accept that Jessica resented me for a misunderstanding, even that she fell in love with someone else, but I couldn't accept that she'd become another man's plaything, a puppet controlled at his whim. Are you out of your damn mind? She's a person. So what? Helping me should be her honor. Jason's eyes held no fear, no guilt, only a self-satisfied smirk. I raised my hand to strike him when the door burst open. Stop! Luke, what are you doing? It was Jessica. She shoved me back and stepped in front of Jason, her beautiful, stubborn face tilted up to glare at me, eyes blazing. Jessica, listen to me. That man's lying to you. You're the liar. You wrote that woman into your script and made me play her. Luke, you make me sick. My words caught in my throat. Jessica's voice dripped with disgust. Jason, are you okay? I'm fine. Sorry I met him behind your back. I thought I could convince him to apologize to you. Jason's gentle mask was back, looking like a wounded puppy. He tugged softly at Jessica's sleeve. Come on, sweetheart, let's go. She shielded him as they walked past me. I reached out and grabbed her wrist. Jessica, what if I told you that woman was always you? Jessica didn't stop. She just gave a bitter laugh. Luke, Do you think I'm an idiot? If it were me, why didn't you tell me before? She left with Jason! The warmth of her hand fading from my palm. Why didn't I tell her? 'Cause back then, I was a mess. I always wanted her to see me at my best. Successful, accomplished, not the broken man I once was. But maybe it was already too late. Perhaps out of revenge for the night I almost hit Jason, the tabloids began digging into my past. They plastered headlines about my childhood in an orphanage, the petty crimes I'd committed to survive, even the claim that I'd killed my brother. My assistant saw the comments online and was furious, muttering under his breath, though he didn't want me to hear. He was worried I'd be upset, but honestly, I already knew. Let them say what they want. Holding it in must hurt more. He put down his phone with a sigh. Luke, are you really done making movies? I took a sip of wine and sprawled on the couch. I'd made enough money for a lifetime. Yeah, I'm done. I want to see the world. Making films is about pouring yourself out, and I've run dry these past 3 years. He looked like he wanted to argue, but stayed silent. When I turned, I saw the tears in his eyes. I blinked. Why are you crying? He scrubbed his eyes with the back of his hand, voice low and thick. Nothing. It's a shame. You love filmmaking so much. And now you're just walking away. And Jessica, after everything you did for her, He didn't finish. I watched the wine swirling in my glass, saying nothing. Do I regret what I did for Jessica? Honestly, no. I'll just call it payment for the dream of my youth. Besides, if it weren't for her, I might never have entered this industry, never become a director. It was because of that little girl who once said she'd stand in front of a camera someday and make everyone fall in love with her. On the day of the press conference, the hall was packed, most there for headlines, only a few true fans. I sat on stage, staring at the sea of faces below. Suddenly, I found it funny. The 16-year-old me would never have believed he'd stand before so many people one day. Thinking of that, maybe I should thank Jessica. Thank her for helping me find what I love, and for letting so many people see who Luke really is. I know everyone's here because of the recent Weibo incident. First, I want to say there's no such thing as a white moonlight in my life. If there ever was, it would be the 16-year-old Jessica. I digitally restored Jessica's old photo to reveal her face and projected it onto the big screen. The murmurs in the crowd died instantly. Maybe even they couldn't believe it. I lowered my eyes and told them everything about how we met, including my brother's story. Things I once vowed to hide forever now came out effortlessly. It was because of Jessica that I became a director to make her, one day, the heroine under my lens. People say Jessica looks her most beautiful through my camera. That's because every script, every heroine I've ever written was for her. But when she finally stood in front of my camera, she was no longer the girl I'd once dreamed of. I looked into the flickering lights before me and smiled. The heart in my chest belonged to my brother. He once told me he hoped I'd live an extraordinary life. Before 30, I lived for Jessica and for film. From now on, I'll live for myself and for my brother's heart. I won't make movies anymore because my heroine is dead. The flashing lights stilled. I saw my fans below, tears streaming down their faces. I felt sorry for them, but this was a decision I had to make. Luke. In the hush that followed, Jessica's trembling voice rang clear. I didn't know when she'd arrived or how much she'd heard, but it no longer mattered. My eyes lingered on her for only a second before I turned back to the reporters. Then I rose and bowed deeply. Thank you all for your support through the years. Maybe we'll meet again. I turned and walked toward the backstage exit. I could still hear Jessica calling my name, but I didn't stop. There was no reason to anymore. As I was about to get into the car, she caught up to me, clutching my arm, eyes red and swollen from crying. Why? Why didn't you tell me? I looked at her, pulled my arm free. Was there any need? Besides, that day in the restaurant, didn't I already tell you? The words Jessica wanted to say caught in her throat. Her lips trembled, and finally she just looked at me with pleading eyes. Luke, I know I was wrong. Since that girl was me all along, can we start over? Can I still be your leading lady? If this had been before, I might have thought it meant she couldn't bear to lose me. But now, I couldn't even tell if what she wanted was me, or just the role, the fame, the spotlight that came with it. I shook my head, unmoved by her soft tone. I can't capture your beauty anymore, Jessica. The only version of you I can still film is the 16-year-old one. I got in the car, letting her pound on the window, again and again. The car didn't stop, it carried me away into the distance. The press conference caused an uproar. My name and Jessica's dominated every trending topic on Weibo. Many even called for Jason to distance himself from her. I slapped my forehead, realizing I'd almost forgotten. After the last recording Jessica leaked, I wasn't foolish enough to meet Jason unprepared. So the recording from that private dining room became my final Weibo post. The same people who had been screaming for Jessica to stay away from Jason suddenly went silent. The onlookers, however, had their fun calling them a match made in heaven. None of it had anything to do with me. I bought a ticket to Tibet for the next day. I wanted to see what freedom really looked like. But when I opened my door the next morning, I found Jessica crouched outside. She must not have slept all night. Her eyes were bloodshot. The moment she saw me, she sprang up. Too quickly, her legs gave out from low blood sugar, and she stumbled. I stood where I was, unmoving, as she steadied herself against the wall. Luke, where are you going? Does it matter to you? I had never spoken to Jessica so coldly. She bit her lip, unaccustomed to it. Luke, do you really have to do this? We didn't have to end like this. Her indignant tone almost made me laugh. Jessica, the one who led us here was you, wasn't it? Jessica, I don't regret meeting you or helping you for 3 years, but even a baby learns to walk after 3 years. You can't keep clinging to me and draining me dry forever. Her face went pale. She shook her head, panicked. That's not it, Luke. I did it because I love you. It's because I love you that I got so angry, that I hated you. Love me. Maybe she once did, but when love becomes tangled with ambition, it ceases to be love. And what about Jason? That was just to make you jealous. Her voice rose. Urgent, but the face that once haunted my dreams no longer moved me. Jessica, I believe you loved me once. But what's happened can't just be erased. You and I both know how clumsy Jason's lies were. Yet you believed him. You condemned me without even asking for the truth. That's not love. Because if you ever loved me, you'd at least have trusted me. You just wanted out of my shadow so badly, you ran blindly into the wrong arms. I no longer looked at her. I picked up my suitcase and walked away. Later, I heard that Jessica waited for me at the airport for hours until she fainted from low blood sugar. Some were moved. Others called it an act. Either way, it had nothing to do with me anymore. I traveled to many places, saw countless landscapes. When you're on the road, you stop thinking about the past. I had a small portrait of my brother engraved over my heart, as if he'd never left me. The entertainment industry felt like a distant past life, but my assistant was still in it, occasionally updating me on Jessica and Jason. Just as he'd predicted, Jason gradually vanished from the spotlight. The roles he got shifted from dashing leads to playing fathers of those leads, and whenever he appeared, the internet revived his scandals for ridicule. His words to me back then had become memes and punchlines online. As for Jessica, she remained active on screen, yet without my scripts or camera, her once legendary acting now seemed mediocre at best. Even her face had begun to fade under time's hand. She pinned my name to the top of her Weibo, as if flaunting some deep devotion, but few believed it. After a year of travel, I returned to the city, and by chance saw Jessica again. She was filming a drama. The director, an acquaintance who'd always admired my work, invited me to the set to observe. I had nothing else to do, so I went. Jessica was playing a minor supporting role, standing still as the lead actress splashed her with water and slapped her. The young girl, barely 23, kept making mistakes, forcing retakes. Jessica's face grew darker with every one. Anyone could see the girl was doing it on purpose. The director whispered that she was my fan and had always disliked Jessica. I simply smiled, said nothing, did nothing. As I was leaving the set, I saw Jessica in the corner. She was bent over, speaking softly to the assistant director, looking small and pitiful. The white dress she wore was long ruined. The wind lifted her hair as she turned and met my eyes. Her face froze completely. I only smiled and gave her a small wave. The thing about white moonlight is even if she stood before you again, it wouldn't matter. She died long ago, at 16.